Hey guys, it's Jurgen here at Metal Music Meltdown, back with another video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you enjoy the content and you like reaction to metal and all things metal, definitely hit that subscribe button down below. And if you enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up just to get more exposure. And what I'm doing for you today, guys, is a response video to a thread I've been seeing going around on YouTube for the 10 terrible albums that are not Saint Anger. I believe this thread started on MetalMickey's channel and Jurgen. So I'm going to link those two guys' videos down below of their versions of these videos. So go check out their top 10 terrible albums as well. They have great channels. Definitely go subscribe to those guys, show them some love. And I wanted to do my own response video to the topic. And a lot of people don't like talking bad about albums. I personally don't really give a shit. If I think an album's bad or I don't like it that much, I'll say it. I keep it honest. I hate when YouTubers and reactors just watch a video or talk about an album and they kind of sugarcoat it, and I don't think give their complete honest opinion, because they're afraid viewers are fans of the band and they're not going to subscribe or give them a dislike. I personally don't care. I don't do the channel to get a million subscribers. It's more just for the love of the music. I keep it honest, and if I don't like something, I don't like it. I keep it at that. I also, at the same point, don't like just talking about bad music. I like keeping it positive and turning people on to bands I think are really good and albums I think people should check out. But without further ado, guys, let's jump right in. I don't want the video to be too long. So the first one here is kind of a 2-for-1. They're two albums from the same band. One of my favorite bands of all time, Sepultura. I love old Sepultura, Max Cavalera era, like Arise, Beneath the Remains. Fucking amazing stuff. Great thrash, very heavy, really raw. Always love old Sepultura, one of my favorite bands. Even the Derek Green era, I really like. The majority of the albums, the last few albums have been really good, like Quadra. The last album was really, really good. But there's just two albums in their discography I just don't like. I tried listening to them a few times, give them a chance, and they just never grabbed me. There's one or two decent tracks, but overall, I don't like the albums at all. And surprisingly enough, it's the only two albums I bought in the past that had both of these albums on the same CD. And I think I just ended up buying it because it was cheaper that way, and I'm the completist. So if there's a band I really like, even if there's an album or two I don't like at all, I'll get them still just to complete the collection. It's part of the curse of being a collector and a music lover. So anyways, to get to the point, the two albums I'm referring to is Sepultura Against and Sepultura's Nation. So I have them both on this kind of 2-for-1 CD I came across at one point. And yeah, like I said, these two albums are the two that just never stood out for me. I just keep passing them over. If I want to put on Sepultura, 9 times out of 10, I put on old Sepultura, like Max Cavalera era, and the odd time some of the newer stuff. Last couple albums have been really good. I like Derek Green's voice. He's a really good singer. It's not necessarily just because of the frontman. I just love the older material better. A lot of people put Roots on their list, I noticed. I can understand why. It's very experimental. A lot of people might not gravitate towards it, but I really like that album. I like the experimentation on it. I like the sounds, and I kind of like what they did on that album personally. It's just maybe my personal preference. I thought it was okay. But yeah, Against and Nation, just knocked two out. These are not in any particular order. Not like my 10-to-1. It's just 10 albums I don't like. So I figured I'd knock two out at the beginning here. So I ate number 10 and number 9, Sepultura's Nation and Against. The next one, another band I really love. And this band gets a lot of flack for being sellouts. They're one of the pioneers of the Gothenburg melodic death metal sound, In Flames. And I love their old stuff just like everybody else. But I'm one of maybe the few people who actually like their newer stuff, with the exception of this one album. Like the Sounds of a Playground Fading and Siren Charms. Those two albums I actually enjoy. Maybe it's because I grew up listening to alternative. I kind of grew up in the 90s, And before I really got into metal, I did listen to grunge and alternative a lot. So maybe I just kind of take those albums for what they are, like a hard alternative kind of album, and I still enjoy them a lot. They have a lot of memorable songs I really enjoy. But this one album, Battles, I just never go back to. I just don't like it. A lot of people said it was a little bit like their older stuff, a little heavier. But I don't know. I just never go back to it. Even in Siren Charms and Sounds of a Playground Fading, I listen to still from time to time. But this album, I almost never put on. I think I've listened to it maybe 3 times since I've got it. I just don't like it. It just doesn't, there's nothing memorable about it. Like even looking at the track listing, there's not one song that really stands out that I remember enjoying when I listened to it. Yeah, it's just one of those albums in their discography I just never really liked. It never really jumped out at me, and I went back to it. Great band. I love In Flames. I think a lot of people don't give their newer stuff enough chance, and they're just too fixated on the older sound. And but just this one album, I just could never get into. In Flames, Battles. The next one, a really popular band for their genre. Maybe it's just I'm not into the genre they're into. I gave a couple bands a try, so it might be just I'm not into that genre as much, but it's Carnifex, Until I Feel Nothing. So I picked this up randomly at a record store one day just to try something different. I heard Carnifex was, leaders in their subgenre of deathcore. And again, I just didn't like it. It didn't do anything for me. I didn't like the style of metal. I'm a huge fan of a lot of old school death metal and aggressive music, extreme metal. So it's not really anything to do with that. It's just I couldn't get into this album. I gave it a few spins at the beginning. The album's like brand new. It looks like it's never even been touched, almost like it's brand new. But yeah, I just never got into this album. I do have one of their newer albums after this, which I thought I did enjoy more. I can't remember what it's called now, but I did enjoy it more than this one for sure. It wasn't still amazing, but it was decent. But this album, like I said, I've listened to it 2 or 3 times when I first got it. Never looked at it again. Dug it out of my collection just to put it on this video. Maybe I'll give it another spin to give it another try, but I never liked it. I just never went back to it. Nothing about it was memorable. All the songs sounded the same from what I remember. Like it did nothing for me. And the next one is another really popular band. One of the biggest debuts in metal history. I love their debut record. By far their their best record. And they had a couple decent albums after that, but I didn't really like them as much after that. Their albums kind of went on a decline. Then they had a breakup for a while. And let me get to the point. It's Guns N' Roses' Chinese Democracy. I picked this up. This was kind of like, it was only Axl Rose with his own band. It didn't have Slash or Duff or any of the guys in it. So he just hyped this record up enough. I guess he was smart that way. He kept going on about this record because he said he had been working on it for literally 20 years, writing songs, perfecting them, editing them down and adding and removing stuff. But maybe I just was expecting a lot more. Maybe I was expecting like a second Appetite for Destruction, which is an epic, game changer album that really changed the scene at the time. But this album was lackluster. It has 1 or 2 decent tracks. Better, I remember being okay. The title track was just okay. Shackler's Revenge was okay, but the rest, just filler. Like, for the amount of time he put into this album and how he hyped it up so much, it wasn't that good. It was not that great at all. I find Guns N' Roses just milked that debut album their whole career. Even the Lose Your Illusion and the 1 and 2, they're okay. They have some iconic songs, but they really milked that debut album. That's what made their whole career. So, sold 30 million copies or whatever it is, 37 million. But yeah, I was expecting a lot more out of this album after so many years of being away, and it fucking sucked. I didn't really like it at all. There's 1 or 2 tracks that I were kind of catchy, but the rest was just felt like filler to me. It was just garbage. And if you heard their new song they just put out a couple months ago, it's fucking trash. I fucking hate it. The new single from Guns N' Roses, it's garbage. I didn't like it at all. I'm not definitely not picking up that album. The next one we have here, a band most metalheads probably don't have any of their in their collection. I liked a few of their older albums. I was kind of into them for a little bit, but I kind of lost track of them after when they got the last newer stuff. I just kind of lost interest. And that band is Godsmack. This is The Oracle. Like I said, I liked some of their older albums. Really good live band. I saw them open for Metallica once. Really good live. They're a heavy band, but they're lumped in with that new metal subgenre. I think they're decent. But this album in general, I just couldn't get into. This is kind of where I fell off from these guys. I stopped buying their any of their stuff. I think previous to this album, I have not all their stuff, like maybe 2 other records that I enjoyed. So I figured I'd pick up another one. I got it for pretty cheap. And I found their music just started sounding all the same. Like they weren't changing their sound. It felt like they just started pumping out the same songs over and over again, and it kind of made me lose interest, and I didn't really want to explore the band anymore. So yeah, Godsmack, The Oracle. Wouldn't really recommend it. So from time to time, I check out singles on YouTube of their newer stuff. And again, it's the same thing. The songs kind of sound the same. There's no experimentation. They definitely have like a formula that they use, and it must be working because they do sell a lot of records. But yeah, after this album, I just stopped paying attention to this band, and I kind of moved on to something else. And the next one, some people might agree with me or really, really dislike my taste or my suggestion. But I don't care. Like I said, I give my honest opinion. One of the biggest metal bands of all time. Again, this is 2 albums from the same band. One of my top 5 metal bands of all time, along with probably everyone else on the planet. The mighty Iron Maiden. Fucking love Maiden. I have the whole discography. Same situation with Sepultura. I had to have all their albums. And I love the early Blaze Bayley albums. They're iconic and amazing. Everything with Bruce on it, I really like. Some people don't like the newer Maiden stuff after he came back. Brave New World was really good. I really enjoyed the last album, Shinzitsu. That was really good. Book of Souls was good. Final Frontier almost made this list for a Bruce album, but I still like it, like half the album, like it wasn't terrible. But these 2 albums, the Blaze, as you might already figured out, the Blaze Bayley albums, I just can't get into. Those are Virtual 11 and The X Factor. Explaining these 2 albums, it's just the vocals. I like Blaine Baisley. Sorry, he's got a good voice. Like it's not like he can't sing. He just doesn't match Maiden. He's not the right fit for this band. It sounds like it doesn't click. The music on these albums in a lot of the songs is good. A lot of good riffs, some good drum work, some good melodies. Like the song structure and writing itself is decent and good. But when I hear those lyrics, I just can't. I don't hear Maiden. Like it just. I don't know. It just doesn't sound right to me. Every time I try to give them another listen, they kind of just clash, and I just like pop it out right away, put on like, Peace of Mind or Power Slave, and yeah, I just couldn't get into these albums. I don't know why. They're just the 2 albums, in my opinion, they should have never done. After Bruce left to do some solo stuff, in my opinion, they should have just taken a break for maybe a year or 2. And reformed and kind of went, refreshed and went back and making great music. I think they just wanted to pump out some more records. Maybe it was a label pressure, and they found a new singer. I'm not sure if they maybe thought Bruce was never going to come back. Obviously, maybe as well, but I think they just should have taken a break and kind of reformed afterwards and kind of continued from there. But the Blaze Bayley albums are, I don't know, I just can't get into them. The 2 albums in Iron Maiden's discography I could just do without. I just don't really need them there. And we're down to the last 2. The next one is a band. I'm not huge into this band. There's a few other albums. One album I really like, it's a masterpiece in my opinion, probably one of my top 50 albums of all time for metal. And they have 2 or 3 other albums that I really enjoyed that I have. But they also have a lot of shitty albums, not even just the one I'm talking about today. The other ones I don't even own because they're fucking horrible and I just don't want them. But I'm talking about the band Machine Head. A lot of people don't like this band. I think The Blackening is a masterpiece. It's so heavy and thrashy. It's so good. I love that album top to bottom. Unto the Locust was really good too. I enjoyed it. The one prior to this album, I'm going to talk about it in a minute. Bloodstone and Diamonds, I think it was called, was decent. But after The Blackening, they kind of slowly went on a decline again. At the beginning of their career, Burn Your Eyes was a really good first album. And then the second and third album, they went right into that new metal sound and fucking was horrible. But I don't own those records because I luckily listened to them on YouTube first. But I picked up this album, Catharsis, I think it's called. Yeah, Catharsis. On a Black Friday sale Nuclear Blast was having. And I figured, okay, the last 3 albums were decent. I have all 3. They were pretty good. Like I said, they were on a steady decline. But I figured it'll probably still be pretty good. And I got it for super cheap. I paid like $5 for this. $5 US. And on Black Friday, like I said. But this album fucking sucks. Like, I don't like it at all. It's just trash. There's not one track on it that I like. I just never liked it. The previous album was good. It had some heavy songs, that I enjoyed. But this album, the songwriting just sounds jolted. There's no unity in the songs. It's all over the place. The production sounds horrible. I don't know. I just don't like this album. I listened to it once to give it a chance. Never listened to it again. Just sits on my shelf, collects dust. I just hate it. I don't like it. So going forward, definitely for Machine Head, I will definitely be listening to their stuff on YouTube before moving forward. But I don't think it's a band I'll ever really hardcore get into. It's the kind of band that fell to the wayside for me. And the last album, funny enough, when the description of the video was albums that are not Saint Anger, the rest of Metallica's discography I actually don't mind. Like Load and Reload are not that great, but if you take them for what they are, hard rock albums, they have some good songs, some memorable songs. But it's funny that the one that popped out in my head the most, especially when the title said, except for Saint Anger, they didn't say anything about Lulu. Fucking Lulu is even worse than Saint Anger. This is fucking trash. It's a project Metallica, I think, did just because they're such massive fans of Lou Reed. They just wanted to do a project with him. And it's fucking garbage. Like, it's really, really bad. Like, it's a clash of 2 different styles of music that don't make sense. They have like Metallica's thrashy riffs with Lou Reed's like spoken word kind of singing on it. Might be one of the top 5 worst albums I've ever heard. Like it's worse than Saint Anger, I would say. I like Saint Anger even better than this. This is by far the worst album in my collection for being terrible. I fucking hate it. Honestly, when I first got it, I don't even think I listened to it all the way through the first time. I couldn't do it. I don't think I've even heard the whole album, to be honest with you. I listened to the first 4 or 5 tracks and I took it off. I couldn't take it anymore. Horrible. But yeah, guys, that was my list. Top 10, or whatever you want to call it, 10 terrible albums that are not including Saint Anger. Let me know what you thought below. Do you enjoy these albums? Do you hate them? And like I said, also down below, I'll put the links to MetalMickey and Jurgen's channels. Not their channels, but their videos of these as well for the 10 terrible albums. Go check it out. And if you enjoy their video, guys, please show them some love and subscribe. And yeah, if you do a video like this as well, definitely add them up. I want to see other people's, terrible albums. Put some albums down below in the comments of albums you just hate that we missed or other YouTubers might have missed. And yeah, it's a fun exercise. Most of my, obviously, people don't buy albums they don't like, so I didn't have too much in my collection I don't really like. But it's always fun to go through it and kind of remember how bad albums are and kind of remember why I never really listened to them. But yeah, definitely put some lists down below of your 10 terrible albums. And until next time, guys, keep it metal.